You're listening to Prosper in the Kingdom, the podcast where faith meets practical strategies to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Join hosts John Cleaver and Wendy Lee as they share insights to equip you in your journey toward abundance, spiritually, financially, and beyond. Just a reminder, every situation is unique. The content of this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as specific financial or medical advice.
Welcome, everybody, and we are here live with another Prosper in the Kingdom. Hopefully, you've got your listening ears on, as my third grade teacher used to say. But today we're talking about, I'm your host, John C., with the ever-amazing Wendy Lee. I almost forgot that. Oh, my gosh.
That's all right.
I'm just excited to be
people are
talking
getting
about
used
this.
to who we are. Yeah,
I know, right? But, we do pick up some first-time listeners. So, again, I'm John C., Wendy Lee. Today we're talking about market isn't the risk, market-driven growth, the market, the stock market. That's not the real risk. Your structure is. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But, before we jump in, just to remind everybody, Wendy and I are here to help everyday people just like you, just like we were, becoming healthy, wealthy, and wise through practical stewardship and real-life strategies and some action items. So make sure you're writing this stuff down. If you need help, let us know. But again, the faster you grow financially, the more exposed you become. And that's kind of the catch-22, right? So I'm building more assets. I'm building this empire, and you become more and more exposed. And the people that focus on returns and returns only, very few people out of that group or just across the board focus on what I refer to as durability, right? And here's the uncomfortable truth about that. If your growth strategy collapses every time the market corrects, or even if you take huge losses, you don't have a wealth strategy. You've got volatility. And what I mean by that, and we're told things, and I've shared this before, oh, don't worry, you'll get your money back when the market's correct. And we're due for a big correction, folks. Look out there. Don't trust me. Go Google it or whatever. But all the indicators are there for a big market correction. And, the traditional advisors out there tell you, hey, you'll get your money back, which typically you do. But what you don't get back is the time. And for those of you post 50 that are listening, that's a critical period because you're kind of in that, to use a football analogy, the red zone of retirement, right? You're coming in. You can't afford those big losses because you can't recover, right? It's the time that it takes to recover. And that's one of the things that, we mentioned Warren Buffett. I'm a huge fan of Warren Buffett and his number one rule, right? And I actually pulled it out. Rule number one is never lose money, right? Rule number two is never forget rule number one. And I'm like, okay, I've said that a bunch, but did he actually say it? And he actually did. So I fact checked my own commentary. So,
there you go.
But again, we're going to be talking about how to build growth that actually survives corrections, not by abandoning the upside, which again, that's what the traditional market strategy has been. Okay, we're gonna put you in conservative things, but that also takes away your growth opportunity. But by structuring protection into your multiplication strategy, right? And that make, manage, and multiply, that multiply strategy, because again, growth without protection, that's, it's just crazy. And it causes a very fragile system.
Yeah.
But enough about that. Let's kind of jump into the meat and the potatoes of it.
Yeah.
Take us off here.
Well, I kind of want to jump into what is protection, and you said this before and I thought it was so relevant. Everyone protects their iPhone, right? We have our cell phone and we're like, make sure you get that protection plan. And we're so quick to do that without hesitating. And we're spending $120 a year, $10 a month at least on that. Hopefully to never use it unless you're me and you lose 2 cell phones in a river. But anyway, story for another day. But
a 30-minute time frame, just to throw that out there.
So we protect our cell phones, we protect our house, we protect our car. But most people never think or even realize that they can protect their assets, right? We just, as our income rises, we're making more money. We have money that we're I hear all the time, especially women in my world say, I have money to invest, but I don't know where to put it. I don't know what to do with my money. We talked to a client the other day who's like, I don't know what to do with it. So I have 6 figures sitting in a bank account, right? Because I don't
Yeah.
know where to put it.
Yeah.
That exposes you, one, sitting in a bank account, it's not doing anything. So it's actually losing because of inflation, right?
Mhm.
But there's so many things that come with that, as you increase your income and as you have more margin to move to that multiply portion, you've got to do it the right way. And like John said, have that protection in there. So how can we ensure income and long-term growth and retirement structure? Um, Proverbs 27:12 says, the prudent sees danger and hides himself, but the simple go on and suffer for it. So what this says when I read this, right, is that we've got to see the risk that is ahead and be wise with our money.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
and when we put money in the market and it has that volatility, like John said, and all our eggs are in that basket, and there is a huge market correction like 2008 where, the market goes down 40, 50%. Like John said, yeah, in a few years you get your money back, but you've lost all that time of compounding growth. And
Yeah.
so you're just getting back to your new starting line over the next several years. And so most people don't understand or even know that there's ways out there to protect against that.
Yeah.
And so being prudent is not being fearful. We shouldn't hold back investing because we're afraid, but we should have enough foresight and knowledge and wisdom to be able to steward well, even in our investing. So,
Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the things too. And going back to your earlier statement, about that client, and I know a lot of people out there. Oh, I would never have that much money in my bank account. Well, a lot of people do, and it's not because they're silly minded or whatever. They're just afraid to lose the money, right?
yeah.
And that's the big thing. It's the fear of loss, which, let's be honest, it happens. That's what the traditional approach has been for decades. Put it in the market, growth. And it's not about losing, you made the comment about you lose 3 or 4 years. Well, it's not about losing 3 or 4 years one time. You look at a working career, right, where you're saving and investing and building for your future, not just in retirement, but wealth in general. And it's one of those things where you put the money away and then you've got a market correction, you get your money back. You're not going to have just one market corrections. Market corrections happen on average about every 6 or 7 years. So you think about that, a 40-year working career, right? You're going to have 4 or 5, maybe even 6 market corrections of varying degrees. They're not all going to be '08s. We just had one, a
Right.
few years ago in 2022, I believe. So, you look at that and every time you lose that money and it takes more of a return to get a loss back, meaning if you had a 10% loss, 10% correction upward is not going to get your money back. You've got
Mhm.
to have more of a higher growth.
Yep.
So you lose 2, 3, 4 years every time. So if you have, let's say, 5 of those, and it takes an average of 3 years to get your money back, and I think that's 15 years. 15 years you've lost out of your 40 you're working.
Yeah.
You look at Gen X, our generation, right? Google the lost decade. We had almost 12 years of no growth from about 2000 to 2011, 2012. And, that's a third, a fourth of our
Mhm.
growing time that's gone forever. And so that's why it's so critical that you look at it in, that traditional de-risk model, right? This is how the conversation usually goes. When you're young, take risks, right? You got plenty of time to make up for it because they know you're going to lose a lot of time over it. Okay. I'm trying to teach people, Wendy's trying to teach people how to be efficient, not only up to retirement, but through retirement, right?
Mhm.
So as you approach retirement, that's what I'm going for, right? As you approach, I can't even speak today, approach retirement,
Right.
we're going to reduce risk. Well, how do we do that? We're going to move your market driven your market accounts, we're going to move that into conservative allocations, right? Accept lower returns in exchange for safeties. That's been the traditional model. Now why do advisors do that? Well, advisors do that because they want to maintain your portfolio in what's called AUM, assets under management.
Mhm.
that's how they make their money, right? That's why they get paid. You make money, you pay them 1%, 2, 3, whatever, right? If you're doing active money management, sometimes even 4%. If you lose money, guess what? You still pay them that 1, 2,
Yes.
3, 4%, right? And on the surface, that sounds wise, right? Okay, I'm gonna conservatively move my accounts into conservative, whether it's stocks, bonds, funds, whatever the case may be. Um, and it sounds like a good move, right? Okay, well, yeah, okay, less risk. I know I get less reward, but I, have less risk. Well, you still have risk. That's the point. That's the
Right.
tension mark, right? Here's what the big thing is too, that lower risk often, in most cases, means lower growth opportunity.
Right.
And so that's 20, maybe even 30 years, depending on when you retire, 20 to 30 years, your money, you're accepting a low growth
Yeah.
strategy on your money. Think about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Think
the,
about that.
Mhm.
Go
The
ahead.
number one fear that people have is not death, it's outliving their money.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're settling for, okay, a 4% return, that used to be the traditional model. Well, we'll set it up 4% return. You can live on 4% of your money. Study came out a couple years ago. That's really like 2.75%. So you think of what you've got in your active market accounts, right? Multiply that by just say 3%, right? 3%, that's what you're going to pull out every year as growth, because it's not the asset you're living on, right? Because then you go into spin down mode, which goes into the big fear of not having enough money to last through your life. So 3% of what you've got in your portfolio, is that enough for you to live on?
Yeah.
And most times people don't even think about the tax strategy. They put it all in pre-tax because they were told save money on taxes, put it all in pre-tax. And that's why you've got to have a blended strategy, folks. But that 20 years of low return positioning, right, quietly erodes your compounding power. Okay. And that's the hidden risk. That's the big whammy, right? Thinking back to my young kid game show days, big money, no whammies, right? That's the big whammy that people never calculate, right?
Yeah.
Luke 14:28, I actually wrote this down. For which of you desiring to build a tower does not first down and count the cost? We've talked about that before, right? And, really looking at having that total plan, that holistic plan for your growth, not just up to retirement, but through retirement. Give yourself another 20 plus years of good gains, right?
Mhm.
So, again, kind of the cost includes kind of that long-term growth loss, right? That opportunity cost, not just the short-term volatility.
Yeah. And it's not, about putting everything, like I mentioned earlier, putting everything in one basket. We've,
No, no.
we've got to have diversification, like John just mentioned about the taxes. So, I'm blown away at actually how many people don't realize that your pre-tax accounts, you pay tax when you pull that out.
Well, and ask the question. No, it is amazing, right? Oh, I thought it
Yeah.
was 401k. I didn't have to pay tax. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, you don't have to pay tax today,
Yeah.
but you do have to pay tax tomorrow. And ask yourself, in the next 20 or 30 years, okay, when you retire, if you're retiring 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you
Right.
guys see what's going on in the economy, right?
Right.
You guys see what's going on in the debt, the national debt. It's like 34 trillion. I don't even look at the debt clock anymore because it's sickening. Ask yourself, do you think taxes are going to go up or go down? What do you think? So,
Right.
and more than likely they're going to go up. So you've agreed to pay a higher amount down the road and you don't even know what it is yet, but you said, yeah, I'll
Exactly.
sign up for that. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Really poor business deal.
I mean, it is. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's a blend, right? But you've
Yeah.
got to have a tax strategy, not only for today,
Yeah.
which is what most people do, but also what's 20 years from now look like?
Right.
Because I quit my job, I've lost all my tax deductions, right?
Right.
My kids may still be living with me and I don't get to write them off, right? I'm not doing donations to charity. I'm more like donating my time. And don't get me wrong, the wealthy are still donating, but most everyday Americans out there, hey, I'm volunteering my time, still donate a little, but not big enough for a write-off. My mortgage is paid off and I'm not contributing to an IRA or a 401k anymore. So I lose that deduction too.
Yeah.
So guess what? You're left with a standard deduction, no employment income, and you're going into retirement at God knows what that tax bracket is.
Right. Right. And so, that's where we want to teach you just having these different strategies, understanding the different tax strategies and growth strategies, and integrating them together. So there are ways to keep your money participating with what the market does, but also create protection around it against loss. And so we talk about this a lot called protected asset class. And that's what we encourage people to look at for their their multiply piece, right? Make, manage, multiply, that multiply piece. And so this allows you to get those market driven returns. Most people don't even know this exists. My ultra wealthy friends all know
I
it
didn't.
exists.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't. When I
My super wealthy friends all know about it. And I've even said, why don't you teach, you're not as wealthy friends, this stuff, right? And they're like, oh, because my guy won't work with you unless you can put away $1 million up front. Right.
that nauseates me. I'm just gonna say that.
But it's the truth, right?
No, it is.
They're not even talking to the middle class about this stuff, right? But you can get those market driven returns and hedge against the loss. And so you don't, I love, and I want to throw this in there, John, because I tell people this a lot, one-on-one, and it's always a light bulb moment for people. And for me, it was a light bulb moment. But understanding the difference between an average rate of return when you have loss versus an average rate of return when you have no loss.
Yeah.
So
Huge difference.
Huge difference. So you could see, like we even had something we showed to a client the other day, and it said average rate of return S&P is this, and average rate of return of this account is this, but they're different because this one doesn't have loss. Real quick example, $100. John has 100. I have 100. I put mine in the market. His is under the mattress. Market goes up 50%. I now have $150. I got a 50% growth. He got 0. Next year, the market goes down 50%. So I lost 50% of my money. John stayed 0. Our average rate of return is both 0. John's 0. I'm 0. Who has more money? John. He has $25 more than me. I have $75 because I lost 50% of that 150. Anyway, all that being said, average rate of return is not the truth. And so we've got to look about hedging against that market loss. Yeah. So that gives you more growth, and you still want to pursue that upside, right? But you're not losing and eroding all that your assets when those market corrections come. And so this is what structured design is. This is what using wisdom in your money and in your growth strategy looks like. And so when you integrate this into our 3M strategy that we've been talking about, right, your make continues to build margin for you, your manage continues to protect the cash flow, and multiply includes both exposed growth and protected growth.
Yep.
Now, some of you I know love that crypto. Put it in the crypto, put some in the crypto, but there's got to be a balance.
It's exactly right.
And so it's all about that structural design, and that those protected asset classes become really the stabilizer for you and your growth long term.
Yep, exactly. And that's the big difference, right? And it's not voodoo, it's not magic, right? I mean, it's literally a structured plan, like she was talking about. And that's one of the things that, when I was in my late 30s, early 40s, I started realizing, hey, this stuff, the traditional approach to building wealth isn't working. Okay. It's building a savings account, if you will. And I'm not talking a bank savings account. I'm just talking a retirement savings account, getting a little bit of growth here and that and the other, but it wasn't designed to build wealth. And I'm like, I want to build wealth and I want to have liquidity and everything else. And that's really where we started coming up with this strategy. And that was almost 15 years ago. Well, actually longer than that, but you look at that, and that's the thing. And, it's like, why would I give up 20 years of growth? I mean, think about your working years, right? And if I came and said, okay, hey, we're going to take you down a path over here on the right where you've got this growth window. Okay. But we're going to look at this path on the left too. And we're going to reduce that by 20 years. Okay. You'd say, no way. I want to get the maximum amount of time. Right. So that's why it's critical that you look for a strategy that extends retirement growth years, right? And that traditional, glide path, if you think, reduce risk to mitigate loss. Okay. Or again, I'm going to move your stuff into some conservative growth things, right? To use layman's terms, growth things, to mitigate loss, risk. Yeah. And that's what everybody just smiles and nods, because they don't know what they don't know. And this is the stuff that really got me fired up, and I'm a little fired up about it today. But what that means is literally decades of lower returns. Still have risk. Granted, it's lower, but you still have risk, but you've accepted lower returns for that because you think that's the only path, right? Whereas a protected growth structure allows you still to get those higher market-driven returns, right? While avoiding market loss in that portion of that, that percentage of whatever you put in those protected asset class. That allows you to put literally a moat around your assets. And I get the upside, not the loss. I like that, right? And that changes the retirement math completely. Okay. Instead of shifting into lower return positioning, right? Lower return positions, hoping your money lasts. And hear me on this. You create a system that continues to compound with protection built in. Translation, I get gains with no loss. That protection becomes a growth extender, not a growth killer. You just added 10, 15, 20 plus years to good growth on your account. And that's how you move from fragile growth to durable wealth. Okay. That's how you avoid from, hey, I don't know that I'm not going to have to move in with my kids, in my retirement years to, hey, we're going to be all right because I've got a plan and I've created a revenue stream that lasts. So, I don't know, Wendy. I got excited about this. I love this strategy. This is kind of the core of why we started Prosper in the Kingdom, obviously to bring in the biblical tie as well. But the growth market out there. Okay, I'm not talking about the stock market. I'm talking about the marketing, right? The advertising, the growth industry out there has quietly shifted everybody into a funnel of acceptance into strictly market growth, traditional market growth. Put it in the market. Hey, you win some, you lose some. In the long term, you hope you win. And it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
But ask yourself this question, you the listener, right? If the market corrected sharply next year, would your strategy hold, or would your confidence disappear along with your statement, the balance on your statement, right?
Yeah.
Growth without protection is fragile. Why, if you have an option to go in a different direction, why would you not look at it? But you got to remind yourself, growth with structure becomes durable because you've got a plan for the sunny days and the storms on the horizon. Because it's not a matter of if the market correction is going to happen. If you're younger listening to this, your 20s or 30s, you've got probably, like I said, 4, 5, 6 market corrections in your future. How do you protect against those? How do you not lose those years? How do you not lose that asset? And if you want clarity on this, specifically on that multiply strategy, right? Including the exposure management, and whether it's a blended approach makes sense for you or not. If you're trying to decipher all of this and you're sick and tired of either the rocky roller coaster ride that you've been on with your 401k or IRA, or just sticking it in a bank or a money market account, hoping you can at least keep up with inflation, start with the Safe Money Roadmap. Okay, we've talked about it. We'd love to show you a path. There's no obligation, but start there. Get a plan in place. Look at, okay, hey, I like this. I can do this. And we'll meet you where you're at, regardless of your budget, right? If you've got a few million you want to put away, fantastic. If you've got a few shekels you want to put away, fantastic. We're helping you out, right? So all you have to do is go to safemoneyroadmap.com, safemoneyroadmap.com. We'll put that in the show notes as well. Click the link, fill out the information, and let's have a conversation to see where it goes, right? But you want to make sure you're building wisely, protect intentionally, and multiply with durability. That's the key, right? Anybody can do this stuff. Anybody. It's not just for the wealthy. So I want to stress that. Go ahead, Wendy.
Yeah, no, I think this is good. I think it's important. I think, I really want to stress, if you haven't gotten a wealth map from us, go to that link, book it. There is literally no risk to you at all. And I know every time we sit with a client and show them what we can do, they are mind blown at and how many times do we hear, how come I've never heard about this before?
Yeah. And there's tons of books and strategies and stuff written about it. But I mean, again, let us sit down with you. And here's the route. I'm going to give you the JC guarantee, right? The Safe Money Roadmap. If you don't like the plan we come back and deliver, I'll refund the money you paid for it. I can offer that because we actually give our plans away. They're free. So our goal is to help everybody in the kingdom. We want to help you too. So reach out to us and take a look at what we're doing. And I'm sure we can help you in some direction, right? So with that, we're going to close. Before I do, though, help us out, right? We want to make sure that people are hearing this message, getting this information out there. So if you're listening to this on a podcast, God bless you. You're on the YouTube channel. God bless you. Do us a favor, though. Give us a like, subscribe. And if you're on the podcast, give us a 5-star review and share this with people. We're just trying to get the good word out there on how anybody can literally start getting their financial house in order that's the sole reason we exist, right? So, share that with your friends, your family, whoever can use some help. And like I said, we'd love to help you out too. Go to safemoneyroadmap.com and let us show you what we can do. Everybody have a great day. Wendy, thanks for being here as always. And everybody, we'll see you next week on another Prosper in the Kingdom. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Prosper in the Kingdom. If this episode added value to your day, be sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with someone who could use the encouragement. For more resources, head to prosperinthekingdom.com. Let's continue building lives of purpose and abundance, one step at a time.